A nurse played with an old lady every day so she wouldn't get depressed, and when she checked her bank account, she couldn't believe it. There is a very famous saying that when you love what you do, you will never have to work in life. This phrase contains an incontrovertible, universal truth, since it is in passion, an activity carried out with total dedication, that the human being finds fulfillment. Whether he is financially rewarded for this activity in an immediate way is secondary, because those who love what they do are not moved by recognition or remuneration, but by their own happiness. And by a strange law of destiny that conspires in favor of those quiet hearts, it is precisely those who give the most without expecting anything in return who are usually better rewarded for their efforts. This is precisely one of those stories that demonstrate that the important thing is to act with sincere will, and everything else will follow. Giulietta was a middle-class young woman who wanted to excel, get out of her comfort zone, and fulfill the goals and aspirations she had dreamed of since she was a little girl. Once she graduated from high school, the girl wanted to study medicine because her lifelong dream was to be a great health professional, recognized throughout the country. Unfortunately, Giulietta would soon learn that the road to achieve her dreams is full of obstacles, capable of defeating the weak who let themselves be easily defeated. Only the strong, those destined for success and not to be intimidated by adversity, are capable of overcoming each and every obstacle, maneuvering through bad times, and managing scarcity to get where they want to go. And Giulietta was precisely one of these people. So when she found out the costs of medical schools and discovered that they were excessively high, she decided not to give up, but rather to look for a more economical alternative that, without giving up her dreams, would allow her to move forward without stagnating in her path, and that alternative was nursing. By studying this career, she could continue to be directly linked to the world of medicine, but with a much more affordable tuition fee for her financial possibilities, and with more free time to look for a parallel job that would allow her to adjust her personal accounting. A whole world of opportunities opened up for this young woman who was ready to go as far as she wanted to go. The difficulties did not stop during the years of her education as a nurse. There were times when she had to choose between her academic expenses and her food, and there were many times when she had to endure humiliations in the job as a waitress that she got to pay for her expenses. Giulietta, however, never hesitated to abandon all that, because she was made of the same material that winners are made of, and a champion instinct made her always face with optimism all those mountains that stood in her way. So, with a lot of effort and dedication, Giulietta finally managed, at the end of the stipulated time, to get her degree as a nurse. For better or for worse, Giulietta would soon discover that she was wrong, and that the world was even more difficult than she had imagined, because in her country, as in practically all the countries of the world, opportunities for young graduates are scarce. Recent graduates as professionals had to face a voracious world in which the oversupply of cheap labor made it difficult to find a place in the wild labor market, even more so if they did not have the necessary experience to do so. So, after 2 months of applying for jobs in every health center she could find in the city, Giulietta was convinced that getting a job in her area of specialty would be more difficult than she had imagined, and that in order to survive, she would have to continue working as a waitress in the short term, the job she had used to pay for her studies. But once again, Giulietta's conviction in herself was stronger than the difficulties, and she did not see that necessity as a setback. She knew that even in the decisive battles of any war, even the most important strategist must make concessions and retreat at some point in the battle, but only as a tactical measure that allows to accumulate forces and relaunch the final offensive. So the young woman faced that parenthesis in her life with all the attitude that characterized her, because she knew that it was a matter of time before her moment arrived, and fortunately, that moment finally came. She had not completed a month in that job as a nurse when she was called by a nursing home to which she had applied her resume to be hired on a trial basis for 90 days, after which she would have the opportunity to stay working there permanently. Her time had come, and she wasn't about to waste it. From her first day on the job, Julieta noticed the lack of interest of her colleagues were the other female nurses who had studied this career not for the love of serving others, but for the obligation to have a job that would allow them to survive, and this was reflected in the way they performed their work day by day. These are details that we often forget, but that are always there for anyone who wants to see them. Those who work with him decided to have mediocre and uninspiring results, while those who do it with dedication and passion are able to give the best of themselves in their work to others who notice it and feel comfortable with that behavior. And this was precisely the case of Julieta, who, while she saw the idleness of her colleagues, was striving more and more every day because she was finally fulfilling her dream of serving others. One day, one of her colleagues confessed to her the real reason for the mediocrity of the work of all the other nurses. The institution where she worked was characterized by hiring young professionals for a supposed trial period of 3 months, but after this time, none of them was hired on a permanent basis. This was simply a strategy to constantly renew staff at low cost. Juliet, however, was not deterred by the situation. The important thing was that she was working with love, and would continue to do so for as long as she could, whether it was 3 months or a lifetime. Of all the elderly people in the nursing home, Julieta took a special interest in a woman in her 80s who was wheelchair-bound, and who, it seemed to the nurse, suffered from deep depression due to her loneliness. So Julieta began to approach her and talk to her with the intention of gaining her trust and finding out what her interests were, to talk to her about it and to cheer her up a bit. After several days in that situation, the nurse discovered that the old woman was in her youth an important chess player in her country. So the young woman, although she had no idea about that game, learned its rules by herself at night and bought a board with which she began to play every day with that woman. The sports therapy began to take effect, and the old woman gradually abandoned her depressive moods and transformed them more and more into moments of joy, remembering her youth as a chess player. After 3 months, when the probationary period was over, the co-worker's warning came true, and Julieta was fired from her job. The young woman felt discouraged for the first time, not because she no longer had a salary, but because she was no longer doing what she was so passionate about, and because she was being separated from the old woman she had grown so fond of. So sad and disappointed was she that she did not even bother to withdraw the money from her paycheck, but instead she dedicated herself to surviving on the little savings she had in cash. And determined not to leave her most special patient, she continued to go to the nursing home every afternoon, now in civilian clothes, now as a visitor, to play the usual chess games with that woman. After a week, the old woman asked Julieta unexpectedly if she had not checked her bank account lately. Intrigued by that strange question, the young woman went to the bank once her visit was over, and it was then when she got the biggest surprise of her life. In her account rested an immense fortune, an astronomically large figure that she had never dreamed of. The next day, when she visited the old woman and questioned her, she found out that she was the one who had made the consignment, because the woman was a millionaire, and what she had donated to the nurse was not even half of her entire patrimony. Although Julieta insisted on not receiving that money, the old woman's insistence was such that the nurse ended up accepting, but only to buy with that money that same geriatric hospital, changing its policy of treatment to patients, who since then had nurses who, like Julieta, took good care of them, gave them the best of themselves, because like her, they were convinced that the road to success is full of obstacles, but that the only way to overcome them is the conviction that one is walking with love and conviction for that journey. If you liked the video, don't forget to like it and leave your opinion in the comment box. Subscribe for more stories like this one, and share with your friends. See you next time!